It's all done by the entrepreneur who started the business. Now, everybody must be an entrepreneur. We need an entrepreneurial revolution on this continent. And it starts with you. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. There are no jails anymore for people who failed and went into bankruptcy. It used to be like that in the 18th century in England. You went to jail, you went bankrupt. Now you get an award. Okay? So don't be afraid of that. What is important? For me, Africa's challenge is not entrepreneurship. You want to see entrepreneurship? Go to our markets. That's entrepreneurship. Our informal sector, that's entrepreneurship. For me, the challenge for us is how do we scale to build bigger businesses? Okay? How do we scale to build our own big companies, our own African company, more and more Dangotes and so forth? You've got to get the product right. But you know, the thing with the product is, it's like the old generals say, that they tell you that a battle plan is only as good as your first contact with the enemy. We say a business plan is only as good as your first contact with a customer. Okay, you might have great ideas, okay, but until you get to the person who's going to buy this product, pay you for this product, because there's also a lot of products that people like that they're not willing to pay for, by the way. It's about how do we recognize it, nurture it, and take it to the next level that will produce the enterprises that enable us to compete. We don't want to be the consumers of Google and Alibaba and Apple and Facebook. We want our own. That's not to say we don't want those to be there, but we want a generation of entrepreneurs, particularly at the elite level like you guys, to leave this kind of place saying, if Mark could do it, I can and should be able to. You've got to have real friends and partners out there, okay? And it's also important to create, that's why it's important to create networks of entrepreneurs. You know, you guys, I wish I was your age. The kind of technology you have. Here we are in a conversation of Africans reaching out across Africa, talking to each other. And sometimes I marvel when I see a comment and I see a string of comments going on in a little group of people around something, sometimes having an argument about what I meant, and I keep quiet. Believe you me, that excites me. You got to build your own networks of entrepreneurs. You got to be talking to each other. You got to know what others are going through. You see, these associations you see, Tanzania Chamber of Commerce or, you know, Zimbabwe Trade, you know what? They were started by entrepreneurs just like you when they were young. They didn't come out of Noah's Ark, so make your own, okay? Build your own networks where you strengthen each other, where you reinforce each other, where you're exchanging ideas with peer groups. Because sometimes it's one thing to know what Dangote does, but it may be more relevant to know what your neighbor did who is in exactly the same situation as yourself. I'd rather not talk of it in terms of business and spiritual life. You know, let's talk in terms of business and the rest of your life. For a start, you and the business are two separate personas. You are not the business and the business is not you. I know this sounds difficult for some because you are so passionate and involved in your business. You know, a cousin of mine came to borrow some money. And You know how it is with cousins. And he said, you know, cousin, I have an emergency. Can I have some money? I said, I don't have any money. He said, but I just read that you've got a lot of money. I said, no, you're wrong. You read that the company has a lot of money. No money. Now, that's very profound. Separate yourself from the business. Let the business have its own persona. That's how big businesses grow. They are going to, so if you can't have your cousin walk in, need some money, and you take money from the till, and you give the cousin, it doesn't matter what the emergency is. The business is not you, and you are not the business. You build that into your consciousness, because the day you have partners, that's going to be extremely important. Because you'll end up with fights. When they say, but you took money, and how come you have a new car? Or, you know. So you separate yourself from the business. The day you separate yourself from the business and allow it to have its own persona, you will have a life. So let the business have a life, and you go have a life. That means attend to your family, be in your family, do the things that, you know, my kids didn't know I was in business until they were teenagers. Oh yeah. Because I never allowed them to see me, the businessman. I go home as their father. I go home as their dad. I mean, one of my kids came up to me and says, you know, Dad, you know, one of my friends at school said this about you. I said, really? Oh, I said, that's interesting. How about your homework? Okay, you can't function as CEO and chairman in your marriage. Your wife can't relate to you as Mr. Chairman. Come on. You gotta get a life. Okay? So you separate. My wife and I don't discuss the business. We discuss orphans and the things we do in our foundation and so forth. And that's it. Because I want to have a life. You have to get a life. Don't overdo it. It's a long stretch. Okay? And go home, take your socks off, watch the television, go and watch the movie. My kids and I, they're home from school. You know, we live in England. Every night we watch a movie. Oh yeah. My 15-year-old says, okay, so what are we watching today? She says, Batman. Okay, well, fine, we watch Batman and whatever it is. You've got to do that. Because if you don't do that, you wake up one morning, your kids are gone, you don't know them, and you know what? No matter what happens, you're not taking it with you.